Hi, good morning, Rebecca. This is a video for our Law Gear pages. I'm going to ask you a series of questions about who you are and what you do, and we will be looking forward to your answers. So the first set of questions is an overview of who you are and what you do. So could you introduce yourself and what your role is here?
Okay, so I work at Walcombe Young Solicitors. I am a qualified solicitor. I'm a qualified duty solicitor. I'm head of the criminal department here, so I have overall running of the crime department now, and I've been that since January.
Thank you. Can you tell us about Walcombe Young?
Yeah, absolutely. So the firm's been running in Plymouth for 250 years, from a Mr. Walcombe and a Mr. Young, funnily enough. We do a variety of work here, so we've got a family department, we've got a crime department, conveyancing and also probate. So we do quite a variety of work, and I have been here for about nearly 6 years now. When I came for my interview, what impressed me about Walcombe Young was when I was interviewed, it was a matter of we want everyone to have a good court experience. And because it's client focused, that really appealed to me, and that's carried on throughout the 6 years and something that I think that we're carrying on with. So I could tell you exactly what's on the website, you can do that yourself. It's more about a feel for a place. So that's why I work at Walcombe Young, and I think what we do.
Thank you. And what do you do in your role?
So my role specifically, I represent clients, first of all, at the police station. So if somebody is arrested or if they attend as a volunteer, I represent them as their solicitor and give them legal advice in interviews. Similarly, that would also be at the magistrates court. I represent people through a variety of hearings there. So that could be a plea hearing, a first hearing, it could be a trial, it could be case management hearings, that kind of thing. I also represent people in other interviews as well. So it could be a military interview. It could also be British Transport Police. So if you fail to pay a ticket on the train, which I have to say a few students doing, then I can represent those people, and also council proceedings. So if somebody's got, you might have heard of ASBOs, but they're called something else now, criminal behaviour order. So I represent people in proceedings like that as well, and also a bit of work at the Crown Court. So I can be before judges for sentences and bail applications.
Okay, quite varied work then.
Yes.
So what's with everything that you've listed there, what's a typical week like for a criminal solicitor?
Well, that's it, exactly. It's the variety, isn't
Right.
it? So it could be any of those things altogether, and it can change when you get to the office in the morning. You don't often know what you're going to be doing because you don't know who may be in the police station and requires to be interviewed. It may be that somebody has been arrested overnight. So actually you really have to think on your feet and be ready to go wherever you are. So it's a whole host of all of those things that I've said already. It could be an interview, it could be being at court, it could be going up country and being in a military interview and having to deal with a crashed submarine. It could be absolutely anything. So it's all of those things that I've said already. So it is quite a variety. Generally, I'm in the police station representing people for interviews, and at the magistrates court if they've been remanded in custody or appearing for new offences.
Do you think that variety is particular to being a criminal solicitor? Do you think you experience that huge variety and flying by kind of day by day more than any other area of law?
Absolutely.
Right.
I would say that it's not office based, and that really appealed to me for crime. I never wanted to be a solicitor or a typical lawyer, in the sense that, I don't mean to be offensive to my colleagues when I say that, but I really like about crime that you're out and about and you're never sort of just sat in the office, and that thinking on your feet all the time, because you really do have to be here, there and everywhere. I don't mean to make it sound glamorous, because it's not quite glamorous for lots of reasons, but at the same time it is variety is the spice of life, and that certainly is what has kept me interested, and still why I love it.
Great, thank you so much. Right, so now we're going to move on to your career development questions and kind of about your career journey. So why did you choose the legal profession in the first place?
So like I said and alluded to, I never wanted to be a lawyer who would sit in an office, but I knew that I wanted to be able to help people.
Right.
And being in that position as being a solicitor, perhaps you'd be able to help people a bit more than in other jobs. So I will get onto it later, but I started with criminology degree, criminology and psychology, and then I moved into law once I decided what I wanted to do. So, which didn't come until the third year of my degree. So I had no idea up until that point. So, yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer to help people.
Great.
Is the honest truth.
And was that wanting to help people specifically why you chose crime? Because there's lots of ways lawyers help. Essentially, they all help in
Absolutely,
some way.
yeah.
So what was it particularly about crime that you thought would be really interesting for you?
I think that particularly the clientele can often be very vulnerable. And I think that job of being an advocate, speaking for people who ordinarily may not be able to speak for themselves, or in the manner, or be able to say things that they really should be saying to magistrates, to judges, that may be able to assist in mitigation, because they may not think that it's relevant, they may think it's excuses, and often it could be a defence, it could be really good mitigation that actually a judge needs to know about to reflect on the sentence appropriately. So it's more about speaking for people and those vulnerable people.
Okay. So obviously you've talked about working with a variety of clients and also some vulnerable people, and also you're working with and for and against the system at some times.
Yes.
So what's the greatest challenge that you face in your profession?
So there's a couple of big things that are going on at the minute. So there is quite a huge debate on funding. Legal aid, the funding has gone down quite significantly. Quite a lot of lawyers have left the profession, particularly sole practitioners. I mean, we work in a crime department within a firm that has got other departments as well, so I suppose that puts us in a slightly different position. But I can see that a lot of people are leaving the profession. However, what I want to see and what the Law Society are finding quite key is about drawing younger people in, drawing the younger people back into the profession, because it's a bit of an older person's and an older male profession at the minute. The Law Society did a survey last year of basically the duty solicitors around the country, and I was one of two people who were 35 and under, that gives you my age away slightly, and female as well, who were duty solicitors in Devon and Cornwall, just two. And I mean, that's quite shocking. So from my perspective, part of the reason why I'm doing this is to engage more younger people back into the profession, back into the criminal side of things, crime I should say, not criminal, and sort of reinventing that side of things. I would also say that in terms of the Crown Prosecution Service, they are hugely overworked. In fairness to them, there are issues with disclosure that we have to tackle on a daily basis. Items are not served, and that can cause injustice. And I'm sure that that's quite relevant in the news as well. We've heard a lot of rape cases where disclosure hasn't been given. And as I say, that can cause injustice, and that's about helping those people as well. But like I say, in fairness, because the funding isn't there, it's not there for the CPS either, and similarly with the courts.
Right. Thank you. So, with all those challenges, what are the greatest successes of your profession?
Well, I was thinking quite hard about this, and initially I was thinking professionally for me it's being head of department, it's being able to get involved a lot more and have a bit of a difference, so doing things like this and like I say, being a head of a really great team is really, I find that personally a big success. I've had some very inspirational people before me, so I think that that's been key, and that's another reason why to do something like this. I would say in terms of workload, in terms of having a success for a client, it will be something that's minor to me as an advocate potentially, but actually that could be the difference between somebody getting sort of years in custody in a sentence or getting their family back or something like that. So it's huge impact on the client. So I suppose even if there's my ability can stop that or prevent that or have a success and have justice from my point of view. So it's huge, but it's not for me, it's huge for the client.
Yeah, amazing, thank you. So then to wrap our career development section up, what do you think are some real core key qualities that a criminal solicitor needs to have to thrive?
So I would say that you need to have that ambition. So you need to focus, and you need to be client focused specifically, because you will get that variety of people, and of course we don't just deal with vulnerable people, we have private paying clients as well, who offer a whole host of challenges themselves as well. But I would say you've got to be client focused and adapt yourself to each individual client, because their needs will alter dependent on what matter it is. So it's sort of building a bit of a relationship as well, because obviously we get repeat business because of the good work that you do, and so people then not quite rely on you, but know that you can represent them successfully, and they come back if they're unfortunately in a circumstance where they're arrested again or there's other proceedings in place. So that's really important. I would say that you need to, if you're not confident, you need to air confidence, and I think that that's more what it is. I don't think that you necessarily have to go in there and know everything, because there's never going to be a day when you know everything about the law, but you know how to reference the law, you know how to where to look it up. And like I say, when we do such a variety of work, I didn't know quite the law on a nuclear submarine crashing before I did that interview, but I had to look it up quite quickly, think on my feet, and be able to resource the law to be able to advise properly. So with the variety, it's about finding where you can find the right answers.
Fab, thank you so much. All right. So now we're going to talk much more about you and go back, which is you're obviously successful now, head of department, but what was your training through to becoming qualified?
So if I go from, I did A-levels and then I went to university, did criminology and psychology, because again, it was a course that I was interested in, and at that time that was more important than necessarily knowing what I wanted to do. I then in the third year decided I wanted to do law, so I did the graduate diploma in law at the College of Law. I then did the legal practice course at the College of Law in Guildford. That was a one-year course. And after that, or in between I should say, so while studying I did lots of work experience. So I did experience working at the Magistrates Court and the Crown Courts. I often would spend days in the public galleries, just being nosy and having that interest in seeing how lawyers interacted with people and the other agencies. And I also got some work experience with law firms as well, and I did some administration work at CPS, so then you can get sort of both sides of things, and then I think that makes you a better lawyer if you can see from both perspectives. So definitely getting a lot of good experience. And then I got a job as a paralegal in a Crown Court department. I did that for 2 years, again knowing that I wanted to do that, and that was something, the only area of law that I was interested in. So it's quite a passionate area. And then I moved down to Devon in 2011 when I qualified, and the rest is history.
Right. So did you do a training contract?
I did do a training contract, sorry, forgive me. So to qualify, I'd had to do the 2 years training contract. Because I'd been a paralegal for 2 years, my training contract was 18 months. So it sort of narrowed that down slightly because I already had that experience there. So I did a training contract as well.
Great, thank you very much. You mentioned getting some work experience. Was there anything particular whilst you were studying that you got involved in that you think helped you, either with things like confidence or actually understanding the market?
Yeah, again, I think that it's all of those points. So it's getting a wide spectrum as well. So it wasn't just going to law firms, because often I appreciate that it can be quite difficult to get that work experience. There is still slightly, I would say, a culture of knowing people to be able to get that experience. However, it doesn't just end there. You really have to be persistent. I remember this figure for some reason, 82 applications to just get work experience at the local firms where I was living at the time. And I got a few replies because a lot of them already had work experience, or they were sole practitioners and couldn't really afford to do that. I also got some work, like I say, at the court and CPS as well. So it's really important to get that varied work, to have a look from all sides, because it might be that you want to be a prosecutor. I wouldn't. But but you know, it's really important that you get that as well. So, and it's also a bit of networking. So it's about making those connections with people, and then when you're around the courts, you get to know people, and that's hugely important. And I have to say, even now, that's important, because sort of gaining relationships with ushers at court, with your prosecutors, with your probation officers, it can be really helpful. Just in terms of, I wouldn't say do it to get information, but you build those relationships so that you can build a bit of trust there, and then you can perhaps access what you need as well. So that's really important too.
Excellent, thank you. And you've mentioned sometimes it can feel a bit prohibitive or It's about who you know.
Mhm.
Any key bits of advice for people who really want to make it and they don't have all the doors open for them?
Yeah.
So any advice for someone going to embark on this journey?
Even though I made so many applications, I would say that you probably, in hindsight, need to narrow yourself down and be specific to who
Right.
you may have an interest in working with or gaining experience from. Because when you do speak to students as an employer, it can often show if you are sort of just tapping into a number of law firms just for the sake of it. And I think that that can come through. What I would say is be relatively selective and know that it's somewhere that you potentially want to get a bit of experience from and know more about, because then you'll still have that shine about you, because it's so easy to lose that shine and that sparkle. So if you've got that passion there, then I would say persist, because there will be a door. Somebody will definitely open it if you've got that passion about you.
Great, excellent advice, thank you. Okay, final couple of questions, and this is really about understanding the field, commercial awareness, the things that can help somebody stay in touch. So first is, you talked a little bit about funding. Is there any other factors that you think are going to affect the legal profession that a student or a graduate should be aware of?
Do you mean in terms of crime? Or do you mean a legal
I
professional
think generally,
altogether?
yeah, I think generally working as a legal professional,
Yeah.
that wider scope, anything that
Yeah.
you think graduates should keep an eye on?
I think that it is really important to have that commercial awareness in sense of understanding how businesses work, because at the end of the day we can all be good at our jobs, but if we're rubbish at running businesses or working within a business, then you're going to fail. So I think that it's really important, if you are speaking with employers or, like I say, getting that experience, that you're able to have those discussions and that knowledge and ask those questions about how things work. And as I say, it is a business, so you need to be perfectly aware of those kinds of things. In terms of crime, I would say obviously the funding and the legal aid. I want to say in terms of commercial awareness, start joining rallies, start attending Law Society events where these topics are being discussed,
Right.
because when I've been to some, certainly recently, there's no students there, and I think that's a bit of a disappointment.
Right.
And it would be really encouraging to have some younger voices who want to join the profession, because at the minute it's, as I say, unfortunately appears to be older men who are retiring, who are the only voices that are being heard, and that's probably not the best thing for the Law Society to hear at the minute.
Yeah, it's good advice, so be passionate and involved in something you
Yeah.
believe in. And my final question is, how do you stay up to date? So any websites or newspapers that you read?
Okay, so we sign up to Crime Line, which is it's something that you do have to pay for, although you can have a look on Facebook and join Crime Line there, and they keep you very much up to date with relevant case law, with news articles, and they also provide articles themselves in terms of different areas of law. And as I say, if there's something in the news that's being talked about, then that's really, really good. Again, I don't mean to be Facebook mad, but social media is really important in terms of keeping in touch and also having a bit of a real perspective. So I would say if you maybe want to join a group like Save UK Justice, there are hundreds and hundreds of criminal lawyers on there who will talk about their day-to-day work, and you can also again ask questions. So there's lots of students on there, or trainee solicitors, etc., younger lawyers. I shouldn't say younger, I should say perhaps newly qualified lawyers who are asking questions, and it's really handy to join something like that as well. The last one would be Law Society Gazette, because it's great for articles. I wouldn't say that it's very deep, but it's certainly very, very good for keeping in touch with update law.
Perfect, thank you so much, that's really good advice. Do you have any comments you'd like to make on in addition?
I just wanted to say again on that passion. So I think that unfortunately when it comes to crime, students and people generally are really put off quite early on, and that bothers me quite a lot, because I think that if you're passionate, then there is still a future there. There will always be crime. It may not be the crime of what people thought of years ago, the crime sort of area, but it is always going to be there, and there is a future there, and I want to impress that on people, because it bothers me that commercial solicitors and other solicitors, because it's not quite as well paid as those areas, seem to put students off, and that's not something that should be happening. I've been inspired by, as I say, by people before me, and I think it's really important to have that inspiration there. One last point, if I may. there was a secretary who joined Walcombe Young years ago. I won't say how many years ago for her sake. And she joined as a secretary, and she then went on to qualify with Silex, and she then qualified as a solicitor, very interested in crime, and she's now the managing partner of the firm. So, you know, if you have that there and you have an interest, that passion and that sparkle will shine through, and there is a future there in crime.
Great, excellent advice. Thank you so much.